It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And good morning to the John Fredericks Radio Network. We are indeed broadcasting live from our studios in downtown Nashville. In studio, our newest all-star panelist, EJ Haast.
Good morning.
And EJ, of course, refugee from Minnesota, Stan, who is here in state income tax-free Tennessee. Well, it's time for the morning rundown for Friday, November 22nd, 2024. Here we go. It's brought to you by the Glock Store, located right here just a couple miles from the airport. Glockstore.com. It's the place to go on the internet to get all of your Glock accessories. So here we are. Here's the morning rundown for Friday, November 22nd, 2024. Number one, 61 years ago today, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963. It was a Friday. I have a personal remembrance of that moment in history, and we'll get to that after we go through the rundown. Number two, Matt Gaetz is out as the Attorney General nominee, and less than 7 hours later, Pam Bondi, the former Attorney General of the state of Florida, has been nominated. She will sail through and get nominated and be on the job probably on January 20th, 2025. Number three, Russ Vought, is rumored to be the head of the Office of Management and Budget. He's a former director of the Office of Management and Budget. He's been approved by the Senate previously. That is a very, very good appointment. Number four, on December 4th of this year, the Tennessee anti-child mutilation bill will be heard at the Supreme Court. A number of Tennessee state legislators will be there. We're going to win that case. It'll be 6-3, 7-2 maybe. I think we might be broadcasting from the Supreme Court right in front of it on that day. Number five, this is a little bit of virtue signaling. The resurrected Nashville banner, which a bunch of, center-left, multi-millionaires have purchased the name. Used to be in Nashville. You had two newspapers. The morning newspaper, the Tennessean, which ultimately was purchased by Gannett, and the afternoon, the Banner, which went out of business about 20 years ago. Well, some people bought the name and resurrected it and made it into a center-left kind of news site. They're leaning left because they did a little virtue signaling yesterday. Mm-hmm. Do you see this, EJ?
I did, yeah.
We are going to be leaving X.
Wow.
And we're going to go to Blue Sky. Wow. Okay, so we'll talk about that. So there you go. That's the morning rundown for Friday, November 22nd, 2024. We're brought to you, of course, by our friends at the Glock Store. And we talk about this all the time. We're not NPR. We're not the gold-plated, taxpayer-funded, left-wing regime media junk. We are indeed a commercial radio operation, and I get to say whatever I want. And our guest, like EJ Haast, our all-star panelist, she gets to say whatever she wants. But in order to do that, we need sponsors. And one of our favorite sponsors is the Glock Store. Now, Lenny McGill is the founder of the Glock Store. Been around in business, I think now for almost 40 years. They got their start because Lenny, he's from Pennsylvania originally. He went out as a young man to find his fortune in California. His first job was as a singing waiter. He was so good as a singing waiter, a local radio station guy gave him a gig, and from that, he was great at selling ads. He's a terrific sales guy, terrific business guy. He got into doing an ESPN program on guns, and from that, he became a YouTube sensation on how to use a gun, and they started the Glock Store. They moved to Nashville here, as any intelligent mid-sized business based in California will do, has done, will continue to do. They moved here in 2020, started listening to the radio, heard my show and said, we got to sponsor this guy. And they've been sponsoring us ever since. They have a beautiful retail showroom right here in Nashville. And they've got this unique Shoot 270 showroom. But first and foremost, they are a nationwide online retailer. Glockstore.com. Visit, sign up for their interesting, informative sales letters at the bottom of the website. Look out and check out their products and services. And remember, everything you buy at the Glock Store tells them, yeah, advertising with Michael Patrick Leahy is a good idea. So please go there and support this show. So there you go. That's the morning rundown for November 22nd, 2024. EJ, you are
Yes,
a
sir.
native of Cape Cod.
I did grow up on Cape Cod.
You grew up in Cape
yes.
Cod, not too far from Hyannisport.
Correct. I think I have to preface that by saying there are two Cape Cods. There are the Hyannisport, Kennedy's, New Seabury, very fancy schmancy, only come down in the summer types.
Yes.
And then there's the rest of us who grew up in, a house that was about $25,000 with a sand driveway that used to wash out in the road.
Yeah.
A 3-bedroom, 1-bath, shag carpet kind of a house. And that was how I grew up. Yeah. And it was wonderful. Amazing experience.
Hyannisport, of course, the Kennedy compound, their bootlegger, wealthy scion of the family, Joseph P. Kennedy.
And everybody who lived on Cape Cod worked for the Kennedys
Pretty
somehow.
much. So, it was the era of Camelot, and of course, I grew up as upstate New York as a kid, Democrat, Roman Catholic Democrat. Of course, you idolized John F. Kennedy, but the history changed on November 12th, November 22nd, 1963. Here's the clip. We're going to play this clip 11. Walter Cronkite, and I was sitting in the front row of the 3rd grade class of Mrs. Levine in a little school that no longer exists in Dannemora, New York, a little town just a few miles south of the Canadian border. And, let's play this clip of Walter Cronkite. This is what we heard.
And now for the next 30 minutes, As the World Turns.
For viewers of the CBS soap opera, As the World Turns, first word came at about 1:40 p.m. Eastern Time. It happened too quickly for cameras to be in place.
And I gave it a great deal of thought, Grandpa.
Here is a bulletin from CBS News. In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade in downtown Dallas. The first reports say that President Kennedy has been seriously wounded by this shooting.
Then it was back to the soap opera, but not for long. Soon after, Walter Cronkite was back, reporting from the CBS newsroom, complete with rotary telephones and wire machines.
This picture has just been transmitted by wire. It is a picture taken just a moment or two before the incident. If you can zoom in with that camera, we can get a closer look at this picture.
And almost exactly 1 hour after his initial bulletin, this now famous announcement.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
So
2 o'clock.
Just to tell you the story on this. So there I was in Mrs. Levine's class. My dad was the principal of this school. I heard over the PA system at 1:40 p.m. Eastern, the president has been shot. An hour later, my dad came on. The president has died. Everyone go home. And I remember thinking and talking to our teacher and saying, what will Lyndon Johnson do? And it was a turning point in American history. It was not a good turning point. On that, we'll have more when we get back. This is the Michael Patrick Leahy Show.
Hey there, this is Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of The Glock Store. As a proud sponsor of this show, you may have heard Michael Patrick Leahy mention us a few times over the past 4 years. But today, it's me on the radio telling you how pleased we are to be associated with Michael Patrick Leahy and his dedication to the highest levels of professional journalism. Michael Patrick Leahy has been threatened with jail time in bringing the true facts about that Nashville Covenant shooting to his listening audience. Michael Patrick Leahy, you keep doing what you're doing, and we here at the Glock Store will keep sponsoring your show for the good of Nashville and the entire country. And I'm personally inviting all of your listeners to come visit and shoot at the Glock Store. It's where Michael Patrick Leahy learned to shoot a gun for the first time and where he bought his own personal Glock 19. I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store here in Nashville, just minutes from the airports, worth the drive from anywhere, and a proud sponsor of Michael Patrick Leahy and the Tennessee Star Report.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
In studio, all-star panelist E.J. Haast. E.J., we'll get to the two breaking stories of the day. One from yesterday, Pam Bondi replacing Matt Gaetz as Attorney General nominee. And, of course, Bob Casey finally concedes in Pennsylvania. In the Senate race there. But let's get back to John F. Kennedy Jr. And I've noticed, I said in the last segment that the United States was never the same after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And for the younger people like you, who weren't even with us when John F. Kennedy Jr. was assassinated.
I was not born yet.
It's hard to understand the difference between America before the assassination of Kennedy and after. I mean, it was all gung-ho positive. We love America. It was all bright future. It was all possibility. And then after he was assassinated and Lyndon Johnson became president, Johnson was nowhere near the kind of motivator.
Sure.
Didn't have he was near the charisma of Kennedy. And people ended up hating Johnson. They hated his policies. And it was a very, very bad time in American history. And to me, it's always been just like black and white, day and night. The difference between the morning of November 22nd, 1963, and the morning of November 23rd, 1963. In a way, it's taken us 61 years to get past that. And we talked a little bit about that now with the election of Donald Trump. He's talked about entering a golden age of America. I think people believe it now.
I agree.
I want to talk about that American can-do attitude and the famous inaugural address of John F. Kennedy. We'll play about a minute of this before we get to the key. Clip 9, John F. Kennedy, inauguration day. His speech, his inaugural address, Ask Not. Here we go.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And the glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Wow.
Powerful, even 60 years later.
Wasn't he a good orator?
Yeah.
Excellent. As we enter this endeavor.
The accent's so thick. He's motivating, but firm. And I think, obviously very different style, but I can see where there's the Trump connection, Trump the next Kennedy kind of a scenario.
As an orator, He was spectacular, and he was charismatic. Now, he was a mediocre president, if you want to be honest about it, but he only had 1,000 days.
Right.
Right, and it was indeed Lyndon Johnson that was able to jam through the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But Lyndon Johnson was a totally miserable person, and he was a liar, and Kennedy was too. But he got us into the Vietnamese War. But I think if you look at this in terms of presidents, Ronald Reagan was a great president, and he was an orator, wasn't he?
He was, absolutely.
Nobody's really ever called Donald Trump a great orator.
No.
He's entertaining.
He is, but he's a good motivator.
He doesn't soar rhetorically in the same way. But talk about a motivation. Here's one that we have right now. There will be an echo of this in Trump's inaugural speech. And this wasn't actually at the inauguration. This was something that John F. Kennedy said in 1962 in a speech at Rice University. Here we go.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one...
Okay, so we are going to go to the moon in this decade. Nobody really thought it was possible in 1962. But in July of 1969, there we were, landing on the moon. I'm telling you, Donald Trump will say in his inaugural address, we will land somebody on Mars before the end of this decade.
Yep, I agree.
And he'll probably say, not because it's easy, but because it's hard.
Potentially. I could see where he would want to invoke some Kennedy-esque enthusiasm and charisma.
RFK Jr.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got this clip of RFK Jr. Let's play this right now. Clip 8 on the death of his uncle, John F. Kennedy.
Kennedy, he realized early on that the purpose of the CIA and the intelligence apparatus was to create a constant pipeline of new wars. Eisenhower, who was the outgoing president, gave what is probably the most important speech in American history, which was, where he warned against the military-industrial complex. I was at my uncle's inauguration. I was in Washington that day, a 6-year-old boy. And 2 months later, the military and intelligence came to him and said, we got to invade Cuba. And he was like, I'm not going to Cuba, and I'm not going to let the military. And they said, well, we got all these Cubans trained, and they're going to go attack Castro. And he said, well, the U.S. government can't be doing that. I don't like what Castro's doing down there, but it's not the United States' job to dictate what kind of governments other countries have. And they said, well, as soon as they land, there's going to be a big revolution. Everybody's going to rise up, and they're going to overthrow Castro. And he said, well, you can't use the U.S. military. And they ended up bringing those guys over. And in the middle of it, in the night, they came to him and said, they're getting wiped out on the beach, and you need to send in the military and invade. And he said, we're not going to do it. He stepped out of that meeting, and he realized they had been lying to him and trying to trick him. And he said, I want to take the CIA and shatter it into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds.
Okay, so that's RFK, his view. And of course, RFK has his detractors, but he's been nominated as Secretary of Health and Human Services. Trump has threatened in the past to release all of the files on JFK's assassination. I say 61 years later, it's time to release those documents.
I mean, the time was a lot longer ago than 61 years. We shouldn't have to wait this long for that kind of transparency. I do find it interesting. You can't have a conversation about Kennedy, Cuba, moon landing, his assassination, without including the conspiracy theories. Because at this day and age, how many conspiracy theories have come true?
And there's been a lot of, I have been for a long time subscribed to the single shooter theory. Lee Harvey Oswald. Asterisk. I want to see those files.
Have you been to the grassy knoll
I
and
have.
I have also, and it was a few years ago, and of course the trees have now grown up and it looks very different than it did 61 years ago. But if you go there and you walk around, you realize that the story that we were told cannot be true.
And I think I'm going to reserve judgment on all of this because, like a lot of people in the years, 4 or 5 years after his assassination, I was obsessed with it. And I ended up saying, okay, I'm going to go with the one-shooter theory. But now let's see what's released and comes out, and then we'll reevaluate.
Sure.
Now, I have to add this. Roger Simon, who's going to be in our next segment, is listening and reminds me, very good reminder, that all of those speeches, the inaugural address, and all the great soaring rhetoric of John F. Kennedy were written by Ted Sorensen, who probably also wrote Profiles in Courage, right? But the combination of the writing of Sorensen, who ended up being a lefty loon type guy in the end, years after the death of Kennedy, but his writing skills and the oratorical skills of John F. Kennedy were spectacular. And, we need that again.
You think so? I think we're doing all right for now, but maybe J.D. Vance would be that guy.
I think we're going to see a really great inaugural address from Trump.
I hope you're right.
We'll see. And on that note, when we come back, we're going to turn our attention to what's going on today. Pam Bondi. What do we think about Pam? Back after
thoughts.
this. I want to hear your thoughts.
My fellow Americans, I have to tell you about my good friends at D.T. McCall & Sons. They have furniture and appliances and a lot more. They've been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years, and they're not going to rip you off. No hidden charges, no delivery charges, no charges for all of the crazy things. These are sick people at the lumber yards. These are very sick people. They charge you for cords and hoses and haul off. They charge you for all of these things. They call them hidden charges. It's the type of surprise that you don't want to see. It's like an October surprise, but it's worse. D.T. McCall & Sons, they're not going to do that. They're great people. They're going to give you a great deal. With locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, D.T. McCall & Sons will give you the deal of your life. Check them out today or go to dtmccalls.com.
Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. Our newest All-Star panelist, E.J. Haast, here in studio. E.J., yesterday on this program at 11:20 a.m. Central Time, we broke the news that Matt Gaetz was withdrawing as the nominee for Attorney General. Matt, of course, was a surprise pick by the president. He is a strong attorney, William & Mary. He doesn't have really a lot of prosecution background or administrative background, but nonetheless, the president gets to pick who he wants to pick. So Gaetz goes and talks to a number of senators. Turns out there will be 53 GOP senators, 47. Yes. And there were 4 who basically said no.
I'm hearing the number was a little higher.
Higher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Matt Gaetz. So let's start with this. First of all, I felt like the only conservative on X that wasn't surprised when Matt Gaetz withdrew. I don't know why anybody thought it would be an easy path for him to become the AG. And quite honestly, remember, we were kind of surprised that kind of turmoil and history, and he's got a lot of enemies on Capitol Hill, right? I mean, people just don't like him. It's not of course, Susan Collins and Murkowski,
but he brings
and whatever.
But he brings the fire, which is what Stephen K. Bannon loved about it.
Right.
Of course.
I agree. But I wasn't at all surprised that he withdrew after speaking with the senators. And quite honestly, I'm kind of getting closer to that theory that maybe that was part of the plan. Because he does have such, and I don't want to go into all the details of the accusations against him. I really do believe if there was anything that they could get him on, he'd be in jail already.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's been investigated. A lot of it has been public already. There is kind of a weird,
there's a weird vibe.
Maybe it's a women's instinct kind of a thing, but he kind of gives me a little bit of the ick, and I can't put my finger on it. I think he's a bulldog. He fights for what he believes in, and I think that's fine. But it's not a surprise, nor do I think it is a bad thing that he's withdrawn.
So, having said all that,
yes,
which I think is a good analysis. So here's the inside scoop. We're told, reports say, Gaetz got a call from Trump.
Yeah.
And said, buddy, you don't have the votes.
It's time.
It's time.
Yeah.
That's a report. Who knows? Gaetz said he did it on his own. Maybe he did, maybe didn't. But he resigned from this Congress. He was elected to the next Congress. I think he's got the option of going back.
I think he does. I don't know that he will.
He's probably going to run for governor.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, yeah, I think. And he can do that from Florida. But having said all that, back to the Machiavellian element of this. 11:20 a.m. Central Time, we announce his withdrawal, which is, first, his appointment was a shock. His withdrawal was a shock. But it was 6 hours and 36 minutes later, the president puts out a statement that he's nominating Pam Bondi for Attorney General. Now, Pam Bondi was a prosecutor for 20 years, then was elected to 2 terms.
First Florida female AG.
As AG in Florida, Attorney General. That's a big job.
Big job.
Very successful. And then joined the Trump defense team.
Right.
She's been a part of the campaign. She is absolutely first rate. She's going to sail through the Senate.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yep.
She will be in office. She will walk into the office of the Attorney General on the afternoon of the inauguration.
Right.
Confirmed.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think she's a shoo-in, easy breezy, get through the Senate. How are you gonna say she isn't qualified, or she doesn't? To our knowledge, at this point, no skeletons. That the one kind of that people are a little upset about is her support of some red flag laws in Florida. But that's not going to play a role in whether or not she gets confirmed.
She apparently has had some legal consulting services provided to some foreign countries. That's the other negative. But,
sure.
Okay. Big deal.
Yeah.
We've got a clip here of Scott Jennings.
Brilliant. He's been so good lately, hasn't he?
Is this clip too? This guy is on fire.
Yeah.
He's really, really good. Scott Jennings on CNN talking about the Bondi nomination.
Is this just a confirmation that would essentially sail through, Scott, or not?
Well, I don't think you could consider anybody, just they're going to sail without any kind of real process. She's going to have to go through a process like everybody else. But I can tell you, this is a massive upgrade. I've talked to a couple people up on the Hill already. There's a sigh of relief that now we have somebody here, two-term AG, strong record on drug enforcement and opioid issues, a total hawk on immigration, politically supportive of Trump, obviously. I don't know a Republican in the country who doesn't love Pam Bondi. So you were starting with Gates, a nominee who was underwater significantly to start and was going to always be hard to get to the surface. Mm-hmm. With Bondi, I do think you're starting above water, and as long as she performs in her hearings, and look, this is somebody who's been through 2 elections in a really big state, and so a lot of public vetting of her has gone on already. So I think this is a great move by Trump to be pragmatic and tell Gates to get out, and a really good move to go with Bondi. This is not a shaky limb. This is a sturdy branch he's going with for AG here.
A sturdy branch. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's true. And, the Gates thing was like in your face. And
right.
He started out with, the people that despised Matt Gates. And it's a decent
There's
list.
plenty of them. Mm-hmm.
Mitch McConnell
Mm-hmm.
hates his guts.
Yeah.
Lisa Murkowski hates his guts. Senator from Alaska.
I give them no credit whatsoever. No, I don't want to give Murkowski or Collins. I don't want to give them an ounce of our attention, and here's why: they live for it. I don't even think they have principles. I think they just like being the ones that everybody talks about because they need so badly Murkowski and Collins to get on their side. Well, we have 53 now, so sit down, ladies. Just sit down. We don't need you anymore. Go do your thing, and please retire soon. You've been there for way too long. I mean, we're approaching like Pelosi times here.
So Murkowski, I would say yes. Here's the problem with Susan Collins. She for, I don't know, like 4 or 5 terms has represented Maine.
Yep.
Maine is a weird state, and it went 53-47
Mm-hmm.
for Kamala Harris. They've got that split.
And they
congressional
They
district.
moved further to the right this time.
A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any other Republican can get elected to the Senate from Maine. Susan Collins is up in 2026.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I gotcha on that. But I think...
But wouldn't you prefer a freshman senator from Maine?
What I would prefer is not a Democrat from Maine.
Wow.
And I think the awful truth about the state of Maine is it's either Susan Collins
or a Democrat.
Or a version of Bernie Sanders.
Oh, gosh.
You see what I'm saying? Now, so I think...
Yeah, and what you're saying is that Susan Collins isn't a version of Bernie Sanders?
There's one main difference.
Because she's close.
She's close. But who will she vote for majority leader? She'll vote for the Republican.
Yeah, sure.
Now, having said all that, with regards to Lisa Murkowski, get rid of her.
Yeah.
Because Alaska is a Republican state.
Sure.
And it will vote for a Republican.
Mm-hmm.
And when she's up again, I mean, she got that. Murkowski is moderate mediocrity to the extreme.
Mm-hmm.
She was appointed to that seat by her father, the governor. And, in terms of not being the brightest bulb, it took her 6 times to pass the bar exam.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, She just likes the attention, and I get tired of that. Do something positive for the country.
Yeah.
But, can we just talk about the strategy that Trump team is putting forward here?
I would love to hear about it.
Okay, so it dawned on me the yesterday when everything was coming in. I mean, we just keep saying how fast everything keeps coming in, right?
Boom, boom, boom.
It's just appointment or a nominee after nominee after nominee. Then we've got Nancy Mace making a big deal about bathrooms, and that steals the media attention for a couple of days. And then Matt Gaetz is out, and then less than 7 hours later, we've got Bondi in. And what it came to me was, this is like a hurry up offense. This is like a no huddle offense in football, where you've got the defense, essentially the mainstream media and the radical left, on their heels, not knowing what to expect next and not being able to craft their narrative, craft their defense very coherently. So, this is why Scott Jennings is doing so well, really. I mean, he's great anyway, but tearing apart every panelist he's on television with, because they haven't gotten their marching orders from the coach yet to tell them these are our talking points right now. They had some on Matt Gaetz because it's already been kind of hashed out before he got there. And so, when you're driving down the field, you've got this hurry up offense and you're not huddling, you're not taking all the time off the clock. Essentially what you're doing is you're putting that defense on their heels.
Yeah.
And they're not able to kind of craft their defensive plan. And so I like it. I think we're doing a good job. And was Matt Gaetz a fumble? Maybe, but we recovered. And then Pam Bondi moved us, 6 more yards down the field. So I'm okay with how it's happening. And I love the strategy because I think it's going to get us over the finish line. Like we're very close to a touchdown.
It's also a strategy well suited to the changes in media and technology.
Agreed.
Because, the old playbook, was, the networks will get up and they'll go after the guy relentlessly on this complaint or that complaint or whatever. But now, with a 15-minute news cycle that we have.
It's 15 minutes.
So the Matt Gaetz kerfuffle is old news.
Already.
You see that, and that fits your theme, which I think is correct. And so now we boom, 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 boom. What's next?
We used to wait for, the 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock news. We'd go to work all day. We'd come home. We'd eat dinner. We'd have family time and then put the kids to bed and watch the evening news. And that's when we heard all the news from all the day. Now we're at work looking at X.
Yeah.
We're at work listening to a podcast. We're at work getting updates on our favorite news stations.
You're listening to the Michael Patrick Leahy show, and then that if something breaks, boom, we've got it.
You've got it, and you're going to announce it right away. So
it's
fascinating.
We have some breaking news, sort of.
Yeah.
From the Trump team. It's not an announcement, but it is something designed to assuage the concerns of people about who might be coming into the administration. We'll have that.
All right.
That's what's he call a tease in radio land.
Tease.
We'll have that when we get back. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. She's EJ Host.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back, EJ Host in studio. You know, if you want to keep on top of breaking news, you got to listen to this show, because right now everything is available on X.
Agreed.
And that's where the breaking news. And we track X very closely. Mm-hmm. Just a few minutes ago, this important announcement came out. It came out first on Truth Social.
Of course it did.
And then instantly went on to X. Mm-hmm. And just in a few minutes, we have it.
In a few minutes.
Yeah.
All the crazy libs on Blue Sky will be in tears and crying.
Tears and crying. Senior advisor to the Trump campaign. This is from Just the News. Again, how the news works, right? It goes out on Truth Social minutes ago. Goes up on X. I see it on X. And our friends at Just the News, John Solomon, have a story up already. In the news cycle's 15 minutes.
Yep.
Boom. And here we are with this information. The story, senior advisor to Trump campaign and incoming White House Deputy Chief of Staff Dan Scavino, just a few minutes ago, shot down rumors that the president-elect was considering former Representative Mike Rogers, Republican from Michigan, to lead the FBI. He is an establishment guy who's plugged into the Never Trump intelligence community. Mm-hmm. That's why people despise this idea. Quote, just spoke to President Trump regarding Mike Rogers going to the FBI. It's not happening. In his own words, quote, I have never even given it a thought. Not happening, end quote. So let's look at the timeline. Here we are. It's 51 minutes after the hour. Trump and Scavino had this conversation probably about half an hour ago.
Probably.
So wherever, down in Mar-a-Lago, this is how wonderful this new fast moving media is.
And how transparent it is.
So Trump just had a conversation with Scavino half an hour ago. He puts this out on Truth Social, goes to X. We got the Just News. All our listeners now know this. Mike Rogers is not going to be the head of the FBI. Now,
not even considered.
He ran unsuccessfully for the Michigan Senate seat in November. That he lost by about a point. Then it's been reported that he's going to be the FBI head. Also running in the post is former Trump advisor Kash Patel. Mm-hmm. MAGA team is all in favor of him. Current FBI Director Christopher Wray was appointed in 2017. He is an establishment anti-Trump.
Sure.
Right. Why Trump ever appointed him in 2017, I don't know. Bad move.
Bad advice.
Bad advice, but okay. And look, Christopher Wray, read the room, buddy. Resign.
Yeah.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out, right? And but you got to get out like now. Otherwise, the president will fire you in a humiliating way.
Right.
Right.
Maybe, or he'll just quietly say, "All right, move on."
So
I don't know if Trump has time to bother humiliating some of these people. They're already humiliating themselves.
Well, that's right.
So just move on. But what's interesting is Just the News came out with it first. A minute ago, the Washington Times also has a story out there.
Boom, boom, boom.
So it's happening very fast. I think AI is probably helping with that.
Mm-hmm.
If these news orgs are smart, they are using artificial intelligence to scan what is happening.
AI
and then
is scanning it all.
Throw up, these 2-paragraph long, quote unquote, articles very quickly.
Well, the Just the News article is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs. Boom.
Boom. Just like that.
Back a little inside scoop about.
Hey, while we're talking about X, can I tell everybody to follow me over there?
I think we might let you do that.
At EJ Under the Radar on X.
At EJ Under the Radar.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. At X. The saying has been, according to the Google algorithms, you have to have a 300-word story to get plugged in.
Okay.
I think that may all be changing.
Probably.
I think the Just the News story, 5 paragraphs, maybe 220 words, might be something like that. But you're on the inside with all these breaking things. I do have a theory here, and I have an idea.
Okay.
For the president, because I know he listens to this program all the time.
I believe he does.
I have an idea for who should be the head of the FBI. It's a major player who has intelligence experience, who we've been waiting to see where he's going to get appointed.
Okay.
I really like this guy in terms of his support of MAGA, his experience, his consistency, and his name is Rick Grinnell.
Oh, that wasn't where I thought you were going with that.
Where did you think I was going?
Well, I asked Chat GPT.
Oh no, did you use, by the way, for our listeners, we do this dueling AI thing sometimes. You are a Chat GPT user.
Yeah.
I'm a Grok user.
Yeah.
What was the question you posed to the AI Chat GPT?
Give me the top 5 potential Trump nominees for FBI director. Kash Patel at the top.
Yep.
We should remind listeners, too, that it doesn't necessarily mean these are the best or that there's some sort of inside knowledge that Trump has acknowledged that these are the best. It's what the most people are talking about and engaging with. And so what you feed AI is what it pops back out to you. Number 2 was Matthew Whitaker.
He's already ambassador to NATO.
Yep. Devin Nunes.
Possibly, but who's going to run Truth Social?
Right. He's CEO of the Trump media stuff right now. Sidney Powell and Mike Pompeo came up on my list.
No.
So
Mike Pompeo is out. Sidney Powell is going to be lucky to avoid jail.
Right. So you have to take all these AI responses with a grain of salt.
Here's what we do. You did ChatGPT.
Yeah.
The Google thing. I'm doing the Grok thing.
Tell me what pops up.
Kash Patel, number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, Mike Rogers. Not going to happen. Number 3, Ken Paxton. That would be interesting. That would be the Attorney General.
Not on my
of Texas.
radar.
See, this is the dueling.
Yeah.
We need to get the dueling banjos thing, right? And then whenever we do this, dueling AIs, you do ChatGPT, I do Grok, and we'll kind of see how it plays out.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Kash is I think he's a deputy director. I think he puts. My guess would be Rick Grinnell heads the FBI, and then Kash is the deputy.
I like that pick. I like Rick at the top.
What Kash doesn't have is his one weakness is direct administrative experience.
Yeah.
And on that note, another dueling AIs. We'll ask AI to do that theme, take dueling banjos and turn it out. EJ Haas, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, up next, Roger Simon. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy.